Hi, this is Cecily Roach, and this is a very short video clip to give the Junior Fresh class some further feedback as to how they might interpret the grades they've got for the recent assessment. Now, let's remember what the task was. You were assigned groups, and then, as the instructions outlined for you, you were required to collectively or collaboratively, i.e. as a group, produce a wiki. And that wiki was required to identify and briefly explain the key ethical concepts or ethical principles that might be at risk if a student was to engage in a particular type of behaviour. And each of the 12 groups was assigned a slightly different behaviour, i.e. one of the 12 that you had as a group ranked in terms of how serious you thought an offence might be, first time offence, no mitigating circumstances, and the sanction you'd apply. So that was the overview of the tasks the group had to complete. The assignment was restricted to 550 to 650 word limit, so I think maybe one group went well in excess of that, and of course were penalised on that basis. In order to further signpost what you might do in terms of engagement, a detailed rubric was made available to you day one and has been on Blackboard right throughout the assessment period, and that identified 4 separate criteria and a range of standards that would attract different grades. So what I intend to do over the next few minutes is just go through those 4 criteria to guide you as to how you can further interpret the feedback you've got in the context of the breakdown of the grade you received, because the grade you have is broken down, subdivided into each of these 4 criteria. Just before I go to that, I want to reinforce that that opening set of instructions, that opening email, it was on every wiki group, was that you were expected to contribute often. That your first contribution should be within 24 hours of beginning the assignment, but you were expected to contribute often. That's what teamwork is about, engaging with the others on the team. Of course you benefit from the peer feedback, because as they react to your commentary or your contribution, you learn further and it moves you on in terms of your thinking. So the 4 criteria. The first criteria was engages with peers, negotiates towards an agreed document. So in order to demonstrate that you engaged with your peers, of course you have to engage often. And of course for the excellent standard in terms of that criteria, we had engages well with contributions of others to the wiki, and furthers this by contributing examples of his or her opinion. So you have to reflect on feedback, show active listening to what others have contributed, and then further it by contributing examples of your own. And of course along the way, because it is group work and it's challenging, and some of you did feedback that you found it difficult, demonstrate influencing and negotiation skills to reason towards group consensus and to resolve conflict if it arises. Now obviously that's all within the excellence category, and you'll see where you fitted in terms of your grade on that criterion. The second one I'm going to look at is actually third on the list, because again it's rather from the individual perspective again, and that is participation in the process in a respectful manner. So this was of a dual nature, if you like, netiquette evident at all times. And within the slides and the PowerPoint presentations and our prep work, we've several times returned to this question of netiquette, which is online etiquette. And you have Rachel Elway's standards, and you have our general summary of what demonstrates good netiquette. And of course that relates directly to professionalism, be that professionalism in the face-to-face multidisciplinary team, or as is likely to be more so into the future, professionalism as you engage with other healthcare professionals or others, with the patient at the centre of your care. So generally speaking, people performed very well on that regard, but not all. The second side of that was worded for the excellent standard as timely contributions. That is, not just one big one at the beginning, but regular contributions. And evidence of reflective listening on a consistent basis. Reacting, not necessarily always changing your opinion to those of your groups, but reacting and seeking to engage and discuss. So that's the two of the criteria that were particularly focused on the individual's participation. The other two, of course, were more focused on the outcomes, what the wiki looks like on the end and what it achieved. And the first of those two was content and how you used sources. It's worded use of sources. And of course, as an excellent standard, comprehensive and accurate coverage of the relevant professional concepts. So of course those groups that actually addressed the question, which was to identify and briefly explain the key ethical concepts or principles that might be at risk, did better. In the first instance, they had to identify what they were and then discuss how they might be at risk given the behaviour outlined. And some did that very effectively through focusing on the principles within the Code of Conduct, and other groups relied or focused on the four principles of respect for autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence and justice. And there are examples in the combination of the rubrics of the wiki groups that I've uploaded to Blackboard where groups did that really, really well. The second part of the content and use of resources is always reference the sources correctly. Now, unfortunately, there were a number of groups who actually had very good work. Their commentary, their discussion, their contributions, everything was terrific, but there wasn't a single reference resourced or identified. So obviously that affected grades there. And of course you can just state references and then not integrate them to the argument, and therefore you'll get some marks, but not all in that area. And the second criterion, the fourth of them all, but the second one that related to the group work and the output, is that grammatically correct sentences were used on a regular basis, and that the ideas within the wiki were expressed clearly, concisely, cogently, and in a logical fashion. And some did this even better than others. But of course, if 4 or 5 or 6 separate people throw up a paragraph each, you're not going to get a clear, cogent, logical flow. It was where the groups really in their discussions, or as they reflected back, some face-to-face meetings that were well minuted within the discussions, where groups really interacted and worked as a team, then obviously the end product showed that. And of course, very rare misspellings as would be expected. I hope that helps you. Up on Blackboard, I have uploaded a summary which includes all 12 wikis, and I've put a couple of comments on each. It's not suggested that those comments are exclusive to that wiki, rather that if you read the 12 wikis and their comments collectively, it might move your thinking further on. And in a sense, you've had peer feedback in the context of the preparation of the wiki and your own group. You've had individual feedback, the combination of the breakdown of grades and the rubric and hopefully this short video clip. And now you have an opportunity for a little bit of self-reflection and see if you can clearly identify how next time round you might do even better when faced with an assignment such as this. Best of luck and see you at the final workshops over the next couple of weeks.